Hi, welcome to OCP Academy 2. This is a go-to-market primer for developers. And today, what we're going to do is go through a little bit of the business planning and how we can create personas so we have an accurate sense of what we want to build and how do we use that long term. So this is number 2 in the series. Number 1, Alexandru took you through some of the basics of OCP, OpenText Cloud Platform. Today we're going to go more on the business side. And then we're going to expand on this, and we're going to keep doing this where we have a technical talk and we have a business talk. So let's jump into it. Why is this important? This is really the key question that I want to get to today. And the reason that it's important is that for many of us, and I've been in tech for about 14 years, and before that I was a scientist. The way that we market, the way that we as individuals buy has shifted, and the way that people want to interact with vendors has changed. And whether you're a large vendor or a small vendor, it's changed for all of us. It used to be very product centric. You could write out the data sheet. You could have one or two flashy words, and you're all good to go. And the product will get there, and bada bing, there'd be a face-to-face meeting. There'd be more face-to-face interactions, and they would buy the product. What you're seeing nowadays, and whether you go with what the analysts are seeing, whether you go with what your marketing department's seeing, is it's turned buyer centric. We're now talking about how do we help buyers? How does your technical solution fix a real world problem for a buyer? That's really hard for us as marketing, and for if you're a small developer who's lived your whole life in tech and can talk the daylights out of tech, it's probably really, really hard. And so what we want to do today is talk about how we rethink it. And I'm going to go through an everyday common example. And what's important here is not so much the Steve Jobs, the Apple side of it. It's some of the tangible pieces that we should think about from how our process should be different for designing a persona, for how we know that a product will fit for that persona, and then how do we get them to understand that product exists and that they need it. That's the 3 stages we try and take through when we're building out a go-to-market that's based off of this new world order of kind of, whether you call it value-based marketing or persona-based marketing. They're pretty much all the same. I'm sure there's some people who could tell you why they're different. I really can't. So, back in the day, we were talking about megapixels, frames per second, scratch-resistant lenses. If you're old enough that you saw some of the first Blackberries and iPhones, this is all they ever talked about, right? And we all pretended that we knew what they were talking about. And we all kind of just bought their product because, this one's got 15 megapixels. I don't know what a megapixel is, but 15 is better than 5 or 10. And then we started to all, the market kind of flattened and everybody had 15 megapixels. So what do you talk about? Maybe it's a software inside where you're talking about the sharper image, better video, clearer images. And this went on for a little while where everybody was clear. Everybody always had a clearer image than their competitors. And then we got into, the new world order. And what I want you to take away from this, and what we're going to talk about for just a second, is not so much the flashiness of it. This is not, if you're in B2B marketing, this is not what you need to be. But there are lessons that we should take away because you and I have all bought consumer products. And so we're influenced just as our customers are influenced by those patterns. That bias that you now have of being talked to a certain way in digital marketing is something that you're going to take to your work. You don't just stop because you've now gone to work. And what's really interesting to me is if we look at this, and rather than seeing all the similarities, we look for how these 2 products are marketed differently. They're quite literally 4 different audiences. So people who have a different interest and value. Look at the one on the left. We're talking about blurred images. We're hinting with the visuals that it's something that grandpa can use, and it's something that keeps those memories, right? So it's action oriented. It's designed to address common problems. So, for the older generation of us who have cameras, I'm sure your kids and my kids as well, and your grandkids, if you're that old, tell you how bad your pictures are, or they just delete the pictures and you never hear about it. So this product is designed to take away that common frustration, and they show action shots of how that's doing it. Whereas you have the product on the right-hand side is more inspirational. They focus on one feature that they think is going to make a difference in whether you buy the product or not. It's designed to inspire you. If you love taking videos and you live to have that great video that you could share with anybody and not be embarrassed, the phone on the right is the one for you, because you have Hollywood in your pocket, right? It's a simple statement that tells you exactly what they think you want to do with their phone and what you could do with your phone, right? That's what we're trying to do with this style of marketing, is be aspirational and inspirational in this case. So why do we care? Unless you are a phone person, a phone manufacturer or device manufacturer designed for consumers, and you're listening to me, probably doesn't matter. That we're not talking about that. We're talking about, was it built with Rust? Was it built with Kotlin? Is it designed to be mobile friendly? Is it secure? Does it have these certifications? Those are things that the buyers actually want to know the actual details. And I'm not saying that we're not going to tell them that. I'm going to say we're not going to lead with that. That's a conversation for the one-on-one when somebody's interested in buying. For the most part, and that should be on your website. It should be part of the customer's journey. But where in the customer's journey? That's what we want to talk about now. It's not whether you give them the details that they need to make an informed decision. It's about, when do you give them the details? How do you find the right time to engage that persona and those multiple personas that exist that you need to have happy and interested in your product? And so, back in the day when I used to be a quota-carrying sales person, this is kind of what it looked like. A closed deal equaled the widgets and the technical specs. It had maybe a little bit of road mapping for what our future and what their future looked like. And it had, that they trusted us that we could get them there. And this was all face-to-face meetings or very small group webinars. And sometimes just one person, even at large companies, be just one person who can make that deal. So if you found the right one person, you're in good shape. COVID and the move to work from home and remote work and all these other things that have happened in the world in the last 4 years have absolutely destroyed that equation and replaced it with this incomprehensible mess of, who do I need to talk to? When can I talk to them? Do I ever get to talk to them? Do I know who they are? There's all these problems now with the marketing and sales journey that we need to figure out how. We need to do it a different way, because we now no longer have a linear path. We now have this really complicated differential equation which we need to solve for before we can get the deal. And that deal is going to be more negotiated now. So we want to make sure that before we set them up, we don't give them the ability to kind of talk us down or just walk away, either because the product is too cheap or too expensive. We want to be in the right place at the right time. That's hard, and it requires an understanding of where somebody's going to kind of navigate how they go. Because really what we want to do, and this is one of the major changes when we in the last few years, is the goal for marketing and the goal for value-based marketing is not to win a deal. Marketing doesn't sell. It's what I tell my team all the time. And it's a mantra that we need to take. And product doesn't sell. We're trying to get them to that face-to-face meeting where we're now going to have put our best foot forward. We're going to have our technical experts as part of that meeting. This is what we want to do with the marketing now. And this is what we want to start building out the personas for from this perspective. Because now we have this new different flow, and it really starts off, and I'll apologize because I'm using the OpenText language as far as the titles. So we have the inquiries, which is the initial step. This is the top of your funnel. And usually that's some user that's frustrated with something at work and they're banging away at the keyboards looking for something, and they're on the interwebs. And then we have this phase which is really hard, which you as a vendor can't control. It's going to be the relationships between the user themselves, the person who owns the purse strings, and maybe that's the same person, and an influencer. So there's always going to be 2 or 3 people in every deal that you have to get on your side. And then they're going to do this independently of you. That's really what the marketing, what I have here as the MQL section is going to be. It's going to be when they're looking at this independently, you're not involved. So how do you get them the right information so these three can have a conversation where at least two of them now decide, yeah, we need to talk to them. And then you're hopefully you positioned it right that the rest of your marketing needs to focus on getting the other people on board, because if it's gotten here, it means probably the users on board. They want the product, or at least they want to know more about the product. And so a lot of the rest of your marketing and a lot of the rest of your assets and pieces should really be focused around the buyer. But you don't want the buyer getting them too early, right? So we need to understand the journey so we know when we hit them with the different types of content. And then when we get to the retention, that's when we start talking about what's our roadmap look like? What else could you do? You know, if you're happy with us at first, what else can you do with the product as is, and where we as a company are going in the future? And so I designed this, you know, as a vehicle to have these conversations. And what you're getting now for this audience is very similar to what we've done internally when we're trying to do this. And I call it the Ouroboros of intrigue. It's this idea that it's this self-eating snake, or in this case, two snakes. One is really around the technical value, and one is really around the business value. And you can't win a deal without. You don't get intrigue without having some technical alignment with the customer and something business value. Without both of those, you don't have a successful deal. And that's really what that equation that I showed before comes down to. It's the idea that we need to be able to show different pieces, and that's what VBM is designed to do. And that's what I'm going to show you how we can, rather than having to do all the coursework, I built a tool that will help you get started, walk you through the steps. It's a 5-step process, and we'll talk about it very shortly. But really what it means is that, VBM sits at the intersection of what I call geek, it's JavaScript and RESTful services and all these tech jargon terms, and BS, kind of the idea of we then turn that into, Hollywood in your pocket. I don't respond well to the Hollywood in your pocket nonsense, but I'm not geeky enough to get that. I need the piece in the middle, right? I need to be at that intersection for me to be an influencer, or when I'm acting as a buyer, to be a buyer. And so what we want to do is we can also use this in thinking a little bit of, who would buy this? We have different pieces of content, how we would deal with this, how we would use these pieces of content. And that's part of what the value here is that I want you to think about, is if you're willing to take this journey and start this journey, it's not just about getting a couple lines, cutie lines of geek BS that you can use on a marketing sheet. It really will help you with that go-to-market. I can tell you when my team did this, we found a couple aha moments where we said, oh, so that means we could actually do this and we could sell it to this person instead of what we were doing before. And it really helped us get that alignment between the business, identifying who owned the business value side of it and who owned the technical side of it. And really what was the interaction and tension between those, such that we could go after and create more opportunities to go after them. And that part of that, to give you a bit of the sausage making, is how we flipped from pure marketing to driving hackathons to building out partner programs, as we recognized that what we were doing with pure marketing wasn't working, and we needed to flip our go-to-market strategy to be more amenable to what our customer was looking to do. And so when we look at this, we're really always kind of going through this Ouroboros. So, we need the user to be happy. We need the user to be willing to talk to the influencer. And we need the influencer to be willing to get on board with the decision to spend the money. And so really when we talk about this, there's really just 3 steps. And what we'll do after this is I'll show you the tool, and then I'll have a quick conversation, then I'll open it up for questions. There's really 3 steps to be ready for market. And this can be again used to kind of fuel your product roadmap. And I'll show you, and I have the next lesson will be on that. So we really just need to define the personas that are involved. And what we can do is we can do this based off of what is our ideal first customer, or if we're an existing customer, what is the kind of customer that we already have and that we know about who would buy this new product or this new feature? You can make it as big as small. We want to understand what their hassles are. People buy technology that solves a problem. So if we can't identify what their problems are, how are we going to get them on board with giving us money to do it? It won't just because this platform gives them flexibility and all this other stuff. That's not how most deals happen nowadays. That's kind of, that's a bit of a unicorn sale nowadays. Right now, it has to fill a gap in what they're doing. They have to see a long-term value, and it has to align with company goals. So when we take these first two steps, the last step that we want to do is we want to prioritize how we talk to them, what we position, what our roadmap looks like, based off of the type of company that we think is going to buy. And then we want to test this, right? So as a scientist, I'm always talking about an iterative process where we build, test, and sharpen the axe, as it were. So, I've kind of hinted at this a few times, but a closed deal requires all three of these. So we need to have content for all of them from a marketing perspective, and we need to have features that are, interesting to the buyer, show the influencer that it's going to move, that the product's going to be with them for a long period of time, and we need to be able to find how the buyer deals with the idea of ROI. So again, this fuels your roadmaps in the marketing for success. I know I mentioned it earlier, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here. And so we can think of it as two ways. One is that, from a go-to-market perspective, what enhancements reduce churn? So what are my customers actually looking for? And then would new features allow us to go into different markets? Or can we tweak this feature and talk about it a different way and go into a different market? So let's get started. This is going to be, I'm going to do about 4 or 5 minutes on this kind of thing. Then I'm going to open it up for questions, and we can talk about how you can get your hands on the tool and how we can work. We're willing to work with you to expand your reach and do more with what you have. So how do you do it? Good way, the way that I teach people to do it, and the way that I do it myself, is industry publications. Not necessarily the ones for the tech industry, unless your target organization is a technology company. Then that makes perfect sense. But again, what we're trying to do is solve a person for the type of company that we think is going to be our main customer. So the kind of industry publications you're looking for and the kind of blogs you're looking for are going to be in their industry. So for example, if your main customer is in healthcare, pharma, you want to find healthcare and pharma blogs, publications. And what you want to focus on is kind of articles that deal with technology. So how technology reduces, fixes, or envisions job X, or why your job won't be replaced by AI. That's probably your best bet right now. And that'll give you the idea of what they do, how they do it. And then what you want to look at is, well, who am I actually going to be going after? So LinkedIn job descriptions outside of IT are perfect. That's what people know themselves as. They might not be industry. They might not be within the company, the title. But again, you're probably not going to be coming inside the company. You're going to be using something like a LinkedIn or some kind of marketing automation. So you really need the kind of title that they think of themselves as. What's their title? What's their vision of what they do? And there's a lot of industry-specific analysts that may be worth the effort to go and spend some money on that research. Again, what I want you to remember is that if you're going outside of IT, organizations that cater to IT and tech enthusiasts won't necessarily have the right kind of people for you to get your foot in the door. It might be great for influencers, but it's not. We know in a lot of industries nowadays, tech is not the buyer. IT is not the buyer. So what's this look like? I'm going to give you a quick walk around. It's a set of Excel sheets that are integrated to each other. We have a section on this first page for personas. Then you can build out their process and the steps in their process. And what we can do is, this is the first stage. This is how you know your customers. And you see here I have doctors, nurses, and I'll just change what we have in here for the nurses. We'll do charts, and no, we'll just do charts. And then we can add what are the different steps in the process for charting, from a perspective of a nurse. So I'll just put some things in here. It's not necessarily going to be accurate. Again, this is just an example that I can share widely. And two more. There we go. And last but not least, what's the fifth step going to be? Yeah, that'll work. Talk to the doctor. So then we want to be able to define some issues that they have with that, right? So if we know what the process is, where are the gaps? Where are the problems? Where are the type of things that they do? How do they do it? So, paper charting, maybe that's one. We won't go too far in detail, but what it does now, we want to take the flip view, is work on the persona. What is the persona like? And so there's a series of questions. We're just going to do short answers for this. And then what are their priorities? So you'll see some of the items get pulled over, and we can add different things. A lot of this is meant to be dropped down. So if you use this tool and you do it in the order that I already have, there we go. You can see the drop down. It teaches you how to do the process, and also gives you something at the end. And what's important is, as we're going through this, if you look at it and you say, well, this doesn't make sense anymore, go back to the beginning, because you've gone too quickly through something. This is just I use this for task summaries. You can see the different charts. It allows you to then work with your team, show them a visual of it, and see where the problems are. Where red are problems, blue are explanations, and moving on in the course of time. Then we want to deal with, what does the company look like? It has some hints on it. Who would you start with? This is how you can, if you have separate sales team from your product team, this is how you can work with them to kind of get their feedback from them. Who are you working with? Who do you meet with? How is this working for you? What can you do? And so that's a quick tour around the tool. I just want to finish up, and I'll be done very quickly. Still get you in under half an hour. When we talk about go-to-market, we talk about bringing a new product or a new feature to market, we really need to know who's going to sell, who's going to buy it. So we need to understand the personas that we're going to go after. Then we need to define them as people. What do they want? What do they do? How are they going to do it? Then map some common processes, understand their hassles, and then prioritize it at an org level. It's kind of daunting. It sounds bigger than it is. Most organizations that have a persona or two can do their first one in about 2 or 3 hours. So if you took a half day and workshop this with a couple people, you can get something highly valuable. And as you work through it, as you get to the end, this then becomes fuel for your roadmap, for talking about your roadmap. What are your customers going to buy? Goes to, how are you going to build out your marketing? Where are they? Where are they in the world? Where do they come from? Where do they go? How do they get their information? If you understand those personas, you can then look at G2, and you can look at a bunch of places to see, where are they getting their information? Is the director of IT, is he on G2? Is he somewhere else? Like, what kind of events are they going? You can use it to interrogate different kinds of parts of your strategy and build that out. It can be done. It doesn't have to be as big and wild as this one is. This is one where I actually kind of had a good sense of what we're doing, and we can build. We can actually help you build this out. We're happy to work with partners and potential partners on how you could build this out. The last thing is, how do we tie this back? And I'm going to save this for another lesson when we talk about road mapping. but it's also an important part of it. We want this to be a singular, again, the Ouroboros of intrigue. We want this all connected. So we want to be able to for the arrows to actually go both ways. And most of the time when we talk about persona building, we're going the other way. We're going from value themes to attributes to technical standards. And there's a way to do that here too. And we'll talk about that next time. And with that, thank you for your time. I hope your coffee didn't get cold listening to me. And, you know, we have a couple minutes. I'm happy to take questions. And if you don't have any questions or you don't want to ask them in a group setting, DM me on LinkedIn. Come find me on the developer forum for OpenText or on Medium at IMAAS_Winder. That, thank you.